There is a big difference between saying lo hice, I'm so proud of you, and le hice. What did you do to him and why? While lo and le might seem interchangeable, using them incorrectly can change the meaning of your sentence drastically. This is what Spanish teachers call the cardinal sin of Spanish pronouns. So stick around because in this video you are going to learn the difference between these words, when and how to use them, and you are going to do a little quiz to solidify your knowledge. So let's start with the basics. What are lo and le? Lo and le are object pronouns for the third person. They both mean it, him, or her. They both replace nouns, but they replace nouns with very different functions in the sentence. Don't worry, I'm going to show you what this means. But before, I want you to look at this table over here because lo and le are not the only object pronouns in Spanish. As you can see, the other object pronouns are very similar. Well, they're actually the same, so they are not confusing at all. It's just lo and le in the plural forms that we need to be careful with. So, with that said, let's go and check how and when to use lo. Lo is a direct object pronoun, and as we mentioned at the beginning, it means it, him, or her. What this means is that lo replaces the person, animal, or thing to which the action happens. In other words, to whom or what we do something. Lo replaces the target of the action. And a key characteristic of lo, which significantly differentiates from le, is that lo marks gender and has plural forms. In other words, you're going to use lo, los, la, or las, depending on the noun that you're replacing. Let me show you some examples so you can see what this means. Example number 1. Ese pastel yo lo preparé. That cake I prepared. Believe it or not. Example number 2. Sonia compró esos termos. Los vio en la tele. Sonia bought those thermoses. She saw them on TV. The next example. Esta es la novia de Tim. La quiere mucho. This is Tim's girlfriend. He loves her very much. So let me show you what these examples mean and why are we using lo or one of the forms in this case. Let's go back to example number 1. Ese pastel yo lo preparé. I prepared that cake. Okay, let me ask you this. What did I prepare? The cake, right? The cake is the target of my action of preparing something with my beautiful hands. Because pastel is a singular masculine noun, I'm going to use lo to replace it. Yo lo preparé. Okay, let's go check example number 2 again. Sonia compró estos termos. Los vio en la tele. Let me ask you, what did Sonia buy? The thermoses, right? And I want you to take a minute over here. If I say Sonia compró, that's incomplete, right? We need to know what she bought. In this case, that thing is the thermoses. That's the target of the action. There are verbs like comprar, preparar, that need that extra information because that action needs to happen to something. In this case, the thermoses. What about the last example? Esta es la novia de Tim. La quiere mucho. Okay, that's a girl. That's not an object like thermoses or cake. So what's going on here? Again, let me ask you this. What does Tim love? His girlfriend, right? Su novia is a singular feminine noun. So to replace her in the sentence, I'm going to use la. Él la quiere mucho. He loves her very much. So in Spanish, there are many verbs that work with lo. Some of these verbs are querer, comprar, esperar, mandar, hacer, preparar, y leer. As a tip, you can ask the question what to the verb to find the direct object pronoun, meaning that if you can answer that question, you need to use lo. And we already did some of these examples with the previous sentences. What did I prepare? That beautiful cake for you. Yo lo preparé. So now you understand lo, let's go check le. Le is also an object pronoun for the third person, but this is an indirect object pronoun, which means that we are going to use it to replace the person or the thing affected or benefited by the action. Said another way, le replaces the person or thing that receives the outcome of an action. Don't worry, I'm going to show you what that means in a second. As a tip, le is not going to mark gender, but it does mark number. In other words, it has a singular form, le, and a plural form, les. Okay, let's go check these examples. Le compré estas flores. I bought her these flowers. So let me ask you this. Who is being affected, or in this case, benefited by my thoughtful action of buying flowers? Her. Whoever she is, she's benefiting from this action. For whom I bought flowers? For her. Okay, the next example. No le digas, don't tell him. What about this one? To whom you shouldn't tell? Him, right? He is the person affected by the action of not telling. He's not going to know whatever we're talking about. He's not going to know. He is the person affected by the action. The next example. Mi mamá les gritó a mis hermanos. My mom yelled at my brothers. So I want you to check this one. To whom my mom yelled at? Mis hermanos. These dudes are the poor guys being affected by that action. And with this example, I want you to take a little time to check it, because over here we have a structure that is specific to Spanish, but also to les. You see, le and les can replace many things. And on top of that, it doesn't mark gender. So we have very few clues to figure out what you're talking about. So if the context is not clear enough and people don't know what you're replacing, you need to provide that information to make things clear. And to do that, we do something called indirect object pronoun duplication. Let me show you how you're going to do that. So the structure you're going to use for this case is le or les, depending the pronoun you're using, your verb plus a noun or a pronoun. For example, mi mamá les gritó a mis hermanos. In this structure, you're going to use it to, number one, provide clarification when needed, or number two, to introduce the indirect object for the first time in a sentence. So in Spanish, there are certain verbs that work with le. For example, decir, dar, comprar, contar, hablar, and llamar. And as a tip, you can use the question for whom or to whom to try to identify the indirect object in a sentence. For example, for whom I bought flowers? For her. So let me show you some side-by-side examples using the same verb but changing the meaning using lo or le. So there is a big difference between saying ese pastel yo lo hice, that cake I made it, versus le hice un pastel, I made her a cake. So if I say ese pastel yo lo hice, that lo is referring to pastel, to the target of the action of me preparing something with my beautiful hands. If I change the pronoun and I say le hice un pastel, now we're talking about the soul that is going to benefit from my beautiful cake. So now let's imagine that I arrive with a gift, right? Un regalo. And I say, yo lo compré, versus le compré un regalo. That lo is referring to the thing that I bought, which in this case is a present. If I say, le compré un regalo, I'm no longer talking about that gift. I'm talking about the person who is going to receive my beautiful and thoughtful gift. So imagine that we're at the restaurant, right? And the waitress arrives with papas a la francesas, French fries. I will immediately go and say, hey, yo las pedí, don't touch them. Yo las pedí. And in this case, papas a la francesa is the target of the action to order food. What if I say, instead of las, I say, le pedí la cuenta al mesero. I asked the bill to the waiter. In that case, that le is referring to the person affected, in this case, the poor waiter that has to go all the way over there and all the way back here to bring me the bill. You can also replace, in this case, la cuenta. Yo la pedí. La cuenta, the bill, is the target of my action of asking something. That's the thing that I want. So let's do a little exercise over here where you're going to help me identify direct and indirect objects. Why do we need to do this? Because if you're able to identify if something is a direct or an indirect object, you're going to know for sure, okay, I need to use lo or I need to use le. Remember, you are going to use what to find the direct object, and you're going to use to whom or for whom to find the indirect object in a sentence. So let's start with the first sentence. Yo escribí un libro. What did I write? Un libro, right? That's a direct object, which means that you can replace it with lo. Yo lo escribí. The next one. Le mandé un mensaje a Clara. What did I send? Un mensaje. Un mensaje is the direct object, which means that you need to use lo. Yo lo mandé. What about to whom I sent the message? To Clara. A Clara. A Clara is the indirect object in this case. And remember, we have that duplication going on there because I needed to give you extra information so you knew we were talking about Clara. Let's go check the next sentence. Yo les lavo las manos a los niños. What am I washing? Las manos, right? And in this case, be careful because las manos is a plural feminine noun, which means that you're going to use las to replace it. Okay, for whom am I washing the hands? A los niños, right? For the kids. A los niños will be the indirect object in this case. The last example. Roberto les enseña un truco de magia a los espectadores. What is Roberto showing? Un truco de magia, a magic trick. All of that, un truco de magia, could be replaced with lo. Way shorter, right? So, to whom Roberto is showing this magic trick? A los espectadores. A los espectadores can be replaced with le. Roberto les enseña un truco de magia. Check how concise and shorter your sentence can become when you know how to use these pronouns. So now you understand when to use lo and le, I'm going to give you this very simple quiz where your job is to complete the sentence by using le or the plural form les or lo or the plural or feminine forms. Pay attention to the noun that we're replacing so you know which one to use. You can leave your answers in the comments and I'm going to give you feedback if you need it. You can pause the video so you have enough time to look at the sentence and come up with the right answer. So remember that you can watch this same lesson on my Spanish immersion channel if you're ready to start practicing your listening skills. I'm also going to leave you a link to a guide to direct and indirect object pronouns so you can see more examples using these words. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, it would really help me if you can hit that like button. Bye!